Some dare call it conspiracy.
Welcome to Chemtrails on Trial, an 8-part series produced by Some Dare Call It Conspiracy. If you would like access to the entire series right now, join us on patreon.com/Some Dare Call It Conspiracy. The following episode deals with the conspiracy theory. This is episode 3.
So one of the proofs of geoengineering or chemtrails that is cited is a document that came out in 1996 called Weather as a Force Multiplier, Owning the Weather in 2025. And this is a genuine US government document. And as we mentioned in the last episode, it includes the chapters, why would we want to mess with the weather? What do they mean by weather modification? Applying weather modification to military operations. And it has chapters talking about how to create rain, fog, and artificial storms, and about exploiting the ionosphere for communications purposes. And this is a 100% genuinely real document. It exists. You can find it on the internet. It's even got its own Wikipedia page, I believe. And this is cited as proof that if the chemtrails aren't part of this, that they're at the very, very least looking at experimenting with this type of weather modification and this type of technology. There's actually another document that's called the Hughes patent. Now, this is absolutely nothing to do with John Hughes, who did Pretty in Pink and Ferris Bueller and Planes, Trains and Automobiles, although it does include planes. So there is a tenuous connection. It's called the Stratospheric Welles-Beck Seeding for the Reduction of Global Warming. And again, this is a genuine, 100% real document. It's a patent that came from the Hughes company. And I'll just read it out. A method is described for reducing atmospheric or global warming resulting from the presence of heat-trapped gases in the atmosphere. Such gases are relatively transparent to sunshine, but absorb strongly the long-wavelength infrared radiation released by the Earth. The method includes the step of seeding the layer of heat, trapping gases in the atmosphere with particles of materials characterized by wavelength-dependent emissivity. Such materials include Welles-Beck materials and the oxides of metals that have high emissivity. This low reflectivities in the visible and 8 to 12 micron infrared wavelength regions. And the method of claim, wherein said material comprises of aluminium oxide. And the method of claim, within said material, comprises of thorium oxide. So, just to explain what that is, the Hughes pattern, or the Stratospheric Welles-Beck Seeding for Reduction of Global Warming, what it suggests is putting aluminium and thorium oxide into some sort of spray canister that is sprayed out the back of airplanes, and this will act as a reflective barrier to knock back some of the sun's rays. And this, again, is a 100% genuine document. What they think is that basically these scattered pieces of aluminum oxide will act almost like little mirrors, and basically they'll bounce back some of the sun's harmful rays and thus reduce the temperature of the planet and reduce global warming. And I'll reiterate, this is a 100% genuine document. It was proposed, it's a real pattern, and again, you can find it on the internet. So, William Thomas, the man who coined the phrase, it would seem, chemtrails, he's got a website called williamthomasonline.net, and in there he's got a document. He's done a book as well, but we're just going to look at the document, Yes, Chemtrails Are Real, by William Thomas. And basically he goes over his story again. The book that he released was released in 2010, and it's called Chemtrails Confirmed. And he basically just goes over all the evidence that he's collated over the years, which is it's the same story. He says that in 1998, Jim Crabtree, who's the editor of the Environment News Service, sent him a video from one William Wallace. And it says there was another jet was in the frame, flying parallel to the first, Passenger jets do not fly in formation, but instead of dissipating like normal condensation trails, these merge, turning a sparkling blue sky into a sullen, murky overcast. And he says in this document that the first report on the subject was the 12th of January, 1999, in the Environmental News Service, in which he wrote the article, "Mystery Contrails Might Be Modifying the Weather." And he says that the US Air Force aerial tankers may be causing and seeding clouds to modify the weather. The condensation trails and chemicals spread by these aircraft could be what is making people sick in Tennessee, Connecticut, New Hampshire, New York, Nevada, Idaho, Mississippi, Montana, Oklahoma, Washington State, and California.
It's like all of America.
Yeah, so America, basically. And he said that I was asked to appear on Art Bell, and Art Bell basically said, this is interesting. Prove it, they said. So I did. And so, William Thomas is fairly confident with his evidence. He says, but airliners do not fly grid formations together. They don't make perfect X's visible for satellites or fly head-on past each other. They're obsessed with making efficient A to B passages along rigidly specified air routes. They do not linger for hours in an area, nor do scheduled flights suddenly increase for a week only to vanish for months at a time. What he's saying there is like, how come if basically all these planes are just flying their flight paths, how come some days I'm seeing loads of chemtrails and some days I'm not seeing any chemtrails at all?
Right. Which is what we also observe.
Yeah, absolutely.
Some days there's lots, some days there isn't.
Yeah, completely. So, it does actually give some sort of credence to his observations. He said that from January to August 1999, Clifford Carnicom correlated atmospheric readings by NASA's Climate Diagnostic Center with 21 days of heavy gridding over Santa Fe, New Mexico, at altitudes where persistent white plains crisscross the usually cloudless New Mexico sky. Cornicam found that 30% humidity, which is less than half the moisture needed to form contrails, was present for the entire time for January to August 1999. That's interesting. What he's saying is that basically the atmospheric conditions that would normally cause contrails just simply weren't present. So again, what on earth are these things that are in the sky? And he actually speaks about the Hughes-Welsbeck seeding pattern, the one that we've just spoken about. He says that William Thomas, after seeing this pattern, spoke to somebody from Alcoa Aluminium and says this is plausible. And they said, yep, very fine talcum-like aluminium would appear as a pure white plume in the sky. So, this he's starting to put two and two together and things that maybe aluminium or it's actually alumina or aluminium oxide that would be described in the Wells pattern.
Yep, it's Al2O3, and it forms in a hexagonal-like structure.
Ah, there you go.
What it's used for in the more metallurgy side of it is aluminium may be added to an alloy for the purpose of it forms the oxide, but it's a layer on the surface, but it's a passivating layer, so it prevents either, aluminium particles getting out or oxygen ions getting in. So it grows a little bit, then it stops. And that protects the metal from further oxidation. So why it's good is because aluminium and aluminium oxide have a similar density. So when it forms on the surface, if it's larger, it will want to expand. If it's smaller, it will want to contract. You will either not get full coverage, or if it's too large, you'll get it chipping up and spalling off. So that's sort of what aluminium oxide is used for more in the metallurgy side of things. But that's a different application, obviously.
Do you need to be careful around it? Or would you wear masks, gloves or anything like that to handle it? Or
I don't really work with aluminium, but I'd guess potentially yes. I mean, you did sort of ask me a while ago about what if there's any potential health risks to it. I found maybe inconclusive. It depends on how much you're exposed to it, whatever.
Well, this is the thing, but the idea would be that basically this is a cumulative effect, basically, like we were talking about earlier. Like if it killed everybody straight away and you'd have the entire town square is dead, that might raise suspicion. But if basically, did they sort of pick up illnesses and sort of die off from seemingly natural causes, then it allows you to sort of conceal it.
Because I suppose like a lot of things are aluminium alloys, like Coke cans and stuff like that. So I suppose being exposed to them isn't really killing people.
Or is it?
Well, I think drinking the contents of the can is more dangerous than... Or, there's aluminium foil, yeah. So I don't think it's like it's super explicitly dangerous, but like in an industrial setting where you're using it constantly, potentially, yeah.
So, but again, if it's about constant, if you're seeding this into the atmosphere, it's getting into the soil, or it's getting to the water, or anything like that, which is what they're suggesting, then potentially that has that, I think there was bioaccumulation or whatever, to the point where it this is where the theory is going. So again, not saying that it's real, but it's possible and it's plausible, and they seem to have, there's certainly a pattern that shows that this type of thing could be done.
Hello, initiates of the Some Dare Call It Conspiracy podcast. Dom Jolly here. How are you? Sorry to butt in, but I just wanted to let you know that I've written, a book that I'm very, very proud of called The Conspiracy Tourist, in which I travel around the world taking a look at the weird world of conspiracies, and I think you might like it. Not only that, but I'm touring the book and doing live shows all around England from the 28th of Feb to the end of March. And it would be smashing to see you there. I think you'd like it. If you are interested, go to my website, www.domjolly.tv. And now, on with the podcast. Thanks.
December the 8th, 2000, British Columbia Victoria Airport, Terry Stewart responded to a query about aerial activity and large X's, the X's that they leave in the sky. Mark, it's Terry Stewart, Victoria Airport Authority. I'm just calling you back for your comment. From what I gather, it's a military exercise, US and Canadian Air Force exercise that's going on, but they wouldn't give any specifics. So what's happened here is that basically somebody said these X's are happening. What are these planes that are in the sky? And on this particular occasion, it happens to be a military exercise. And so William Thomas says, well, that's it. That demolishes the airliner hoax. What this shows is that these chemtrails are coming from military planes, not commercial planes, or in his version of the theory. And he says that the local Canadian Air Force commander issued a public denial, but William Thomas knew a fighter pilot who knew a military controller who said US Air Forces often fly over Canadian bases. It was officially denied because, this is in Canada, there's no American planes here. But William Thomas knows a guy who swears blind, trust me, bro, right, that actually they do. So, fair enough. He also points out something called Mark Steadman's Sky Study 2000, and he says he recorded planes flying over him, and he observed that most contrails observed were in the 5 to 20 second range. About 80% persisted for 30 seconds or less. And his research showed that the average duration of commercial jet contrails is 15 seconds, and the average duration of a KC-10 contrail was 6.25 hours. So we can see these KC-10s are potentially the planes that are being used for them, the military refueling planes. And it's been confirmed through William Thomas's contact that they don't fly high enough to actually produce contrails, and yet they are producing contrails that last over 6 hours. According to the FAA, large military aircraft travel at 30,000 feet to avoid commercial aircraft, which is at 35 to 39,000 feet. But refueling takes place at 15,000 feet to 25,000 feet, so they shouldn't actually form any contrails. If true, William Thomas has painted quite the picture there, really, hasn't he? He's this sort of military sort of support for his explanation. There seems to be an anomaly going off, this stuff that we can't really explain. And it's, scary if true, basically.
Yeah, so there's a lot more sort of substantial evidence than what the stuff you cover in a lot of these episodes, it's seeming thus far.
Well, this is the point. So you can see why people would take it seriously. But it's not just, people on the Art Bell show. It's not just that. Representatives of the American government have taken this completely seriously. Has anyone heard of a gentleman called Dennis Kunitz?
Is he the House Bill 2777 something, I can't remember.
That's the one, HR 2977, which names chemtrails as exotic weapons. And this was reported by Jeff Rentz and various other people. It says, after years of denial from government, military and environmental agencies, the reality of the controversial issue regarding the covert programs known as chemtrails has been acknowledged. On October the 2nd, 2001, Congressman Dennis Kunich of Ohio introduced H.R. 2977 during the first session of the 107th Congress of the United States. The Space Preservation Act of 2001 seeks to preserve the cooperative, peaceful uses of space for the benefit of all humankind by permanently prohibiting the basing of weapons in space by the USA and to require the President to take action and implement a world treaty banning space-based weapons. In the bill, chemtrails are listed as an exotic weapons system. The bill also addresses such things as particle beams, electromagnetic radiation, plasma or extremely low-frequency ELF weapons, ultra-low-frequency ULF weapons, energy radiation, and mind control weapons. Bob Fritakis of Columbus Alive asked Kunich why he would introduce a bill banning so-called chemtrails when the US government routinely denies such things exist and the US Air Force has routinely called chemtrail sightings a hoax. The truth is there's an entire program in the DoD Vision for 2020 that's developing these weapons. And this is, again, another real document, DoD's Vision for 2020. It talks about potential weapons technologies that could be developed by the American government.
Does it mention the sort of Thor program, or?
I'm not sure.
So that's like where they were going to fire tungsten-based missiles from space, so they accelerate through the atmosphere.
It may well do then, basically. Like it was that type of thing. I don't know specifically what it all the things that it has in there, but it's it's a real document that talks about real, slightly wacky, like weapon systems that the American government might pursue in the future.
These wacky kind of weapons and wacky ideas that the military and the U.S. military has tried on, like they've done wacky stuff.
Oh yeah,
a lot through history, like with like men who stare at goats.
Exactly. In fact, we've got a whole list of ones that might be connected to chemtrails coming up later in the program. But absolutely, like they're not averse to throwing money at stuff that later on looks completely stupid.
They did try to do remote viewing.
Yes, absolutely.
They did do all these things. I'm pretty sure we'll find a document one day that they did try satanic rituals to see if it would work.
Yeah, it's not dissimilar to if anyone's seen the comic or the film Hellboy or something like that, or understands the Nazis' obsession with occultism or certain Nazis' obsession with occultism and stuff like that. People saw this as potentially a higher science. You're ripping through dimensions and stuff like that. For crying out loud, the Parsons fellow, what's his name?
Jack Parsons.
Jack Parsons and who's the guy that ran Scientology? L. Ron Hubbard. They tried to create a moon child.
I love this story. It's crazy. So good.
They did an experiment in the desert whereby they tried to rip a hole in child and get literal Satan to come out of another dimension and impregnate a woman called Marjorie Green, who was their Scarlet Woman.
Yeah, but all they both did was masturbate on a rock. There was a rock, and they masturbated on it together and mixed their semen on the rock and thought, we're going to birth this thing.
That would explain so much about Marjorie Green that she went on to become the craziest member of Congress or whatever.
But even at the time, this was based on an Aleister Crowley sort of ritual, or it's called the Babylon working. And I think they got it from reading some of his things.
Yeah, they're in contact with him. He thought they were a pair of idiots, but...
Yeah, he says, it does trouble me. I think the exact quote is something along the lines of, it troubles me, these louts are trying to create a moon child. And so he just thought that they were idiots, basically. But again, they're basing this is Jack Parsons' Jet Propulsion's laboratory. So you're incredibly sort of up there. I mean, Tesla as well. He was into some very wacky crazy stuff. And like, he fell in love with a pigeon.
No, I didn't.
Yeah, he was in love with a pigeon, like genuinely in love with a pigeon, like. Yeah, that's it. That's the story. I wish there was more to it. There was this pigeon. He really, really fancied it. Like, so the point being, as you said, that it's not actually that unusual to try what would be called exotic weaponry systems, or to throw money at stuff that basically, in retrospect, you go, that's stupid.
Why would you bother?
Yeah,
exactly.
Of course, nobody can walk through walls. Well, they tried it. Like, I mean, even with the sort of MK Ultra stuff, putting different personalities into people's heads, like putting messages into people's heads that they're not aware of, that can be extracted with the use of hypnosis by trigger words and stuff like that. They got people to shoot guns at people and pick up venomous snakes and to put their hands into vats of acid and all sorts of really, really bizarre stuff. This is all in declassified documents. So, weird stuff goes off, basically. Like, you only have to watch the sort of British soldiers' LSD experiments to go, they tried some stuff.
Yeah, I think it's important to say, like, they do try some crazy stuff. So some of these, like, theories that are built on this stuff, this is why it is sort of valid to think that there might be something to it.
Well, this is a genuine document, HR 2977. The terms weapon systems mean a device capable of any of the following: damaging or destroying an object, whether in space, in the atmosphere, or on Earth, by firing one or more projectiles to collide with that object, detonating one or more explosive objects in close proximity to that object, directing a source of energy, including molecular or atomic energy, subatomic particle beams, electromagnetic radiation, plasma, ELF or ULF radiation against that object, or by any other acknowledged or yet undeveloped means. Inflicting death or injury or damaging or destroying a person or the biological life, bodily health, mental health, or physical and economic well-being of a person through the use of any of these means described in Clause 1, or through the use of land-based, sea-based, space-based systems using radiation, electromagnetic, psychotronic, sonic, laser, or other energies directed at individual persons or targeted populations for the purpose of information war, mood management, or mind control of such persons or populations, or by expelling chemical or biological agents in the vicinity of a person. Such terms include exotic weapon systems, such as electronic, psychotronic, or information weapons, chemtrails, high-altitude ULF weapons, plasma, electromagnetic, sonic or ultrasonic weapons, laser weapons, strategic, theater, tactical, or extraterrestrial weapons, and chemical, biological, environmental, climate, or tectonic weapons. The term exotic weapon systems includes weapons designed to damage space or natural ecosystems, such as the ionosphere and upper atmosphere, or climate, weather, and tectonic systems with the purpose of inducing damage or destruction upon a target population or region of Earth or in space. So yet again, a genuine American government put before Congress, this document was, and it describes weapons that are used for mind control, weapons that are used for destruction of the population, weapons that are used to induce earthquakes, and chemtrails. And this is a very genuine document, and all references to those seemingly secret weapon systems were removed in the revised version that was eventually presented to Congress.
Yeah, I used to look at this quite a lot, like, obviously, because my view was that everything was like part of the conspiracy. So like even the Sumatra tsunami was part of it. So you just think, because of documents like this existing, it kind of makes you think that anything's possible.
Well, absolutely. They've just admitted in print that this is the type of weapon systems that apparently they have.
Yeah. So Hurricane Katrina, all of these things, they all became part of the conspiracies.
Well, they talk about, the hurricane that changed courses on 9/11 and stuff like that, and that connected to sort of space-based directed energy weapons and things like this. So, again, if you're in this mindset and you're finding these documents and you're putting these things together, it's not beyond belief by any stretch of the imagination.
Thank you for listening to Chemtrails on Trial, produced by Brent Lee and Neil Sanders for Some Dare Call It Conspiracy. And don't forget, if you can't wait for next week, do join us on patreon.com/Some Dare Call It Conspiracy, where you'll not only be able to get the entire series right now, but also ad-free episodes, plus tons of other goodies, including my music, Neil's books, audiobooks of Neil's, and art by Nicholas C. Gray. You can also find all our links at www.somedarecallitconspiracy.com.